Yo, you gotta love how Kirinji rolled up on Juha, Hashwalt, Uryu, and the foot soldiers on some straight The Rock kind of shit. For real.
Jabroni, you are 3 seconds away. And The Rock means 3 seconds away from The Rock to lay the smackdown on your candy ass.
What's going on, people? Mr. Anti-Lock here, back with this week's Bleach chapter 588, The Headless Star 7. Now, it starts off at the same point we left off last week, where we see the big three enter the Soul Palace. But the question I had for myself and you guys as the viewers was, when Juha was put on the spot by Hashwald and he was talking about him feeling emotions about seeing a decrepit gravestone, was this gravestone in fact the Soul King's palace? I really do wonder what he meant by that. And the invasion is about to begin. Hashwald summons foot soldiers from the Shadow Realm. But before these foot soldiers can even make it to the stairs of the Soul Palace, they're greeted by the first officer, Kirinji. What I do love about Kirinji is that water from the hot spring, he can actually summon and suck the Ryatsu and blood from you. Now it makes me wonder, is that a form of Keto, or is that just like a pure ability? Now, since he's the first officer of the Zero Division, this week Kubo blesses us with his Shikai. Epic panel of the week. What I like to point out, going to my notes, is that Manga Panda and Manga Stream had two different release commands translations. Now, one of the release command translations, which came from Manga Panda, was Gleam, and the one from Manga Stream was Shine. But let me point out that this week Manga Panda took it a step further and actually translated the name of his Zanpakuto, which is Kinpika, which means shining gold. I really enjoyed that Manga Panda did that, because sometimes we get these elaborate Japanese words and don't know what they mean. So that was pretty cool. And the blade itself begins to emit like a light. So let's just hope that it's not a Zanpakuto that messes with your senses or your ability or your perception, because we've been getting too much of that in Bleach, and quite frankly it's quite tiring. Then we get Baldy and Sweetness. And I guess this week you can understand now, besides the fact that he's really primp and pretty, why I call this guy Sweetness. They have Giselle, or Giswell, Jewel, pinned up against the wall. But for some strange reason, Sweetness, Yumi Chika, has figured out that she's trying to provoke them, and that her particular ability may be that once her blood splatters on them, something possibly will happen. He doesn't know exactly what's going to happen, but he determined that's what's going to happen. And the thing that was crazy was that Yumi Chika pointed out that she had another trick up her sleeve. And that trick up her sleeve was that she could possibly be a boy. But what's more disturbing than that, how he came to that determination? He said she reeks of semen. How the fuck do you know how that smells? Okay. That's gross. That's really gross. Seriously. This part is amazing. What made this part amazing for me was that Giselle summoned 80 Tensai Bambietta. That's right. I said it. No, but seriously though, she actually summoned Bambietta. So that confirms all of our suspicions to what happened to Bambietta. And the fact is that either they killed her and Giselle turned her into a zombie, or she was on death's door and died. And in her panic, she was turned into a zombie. So I can't wait to see how Giselle puppeteers Bambietta into fighting Yumichika and Ika. Overall, my thoughts was this week's chapter was a pretty enjoyable chapter. Now, going into my notes, I mean, like, overall, I can't continue each week to keep pointing out that these chapters are short. They are particularly short. They may be 18 pages, but the way it's given to us makes it feel so short because we only get a few things a week to go on. Like, for example, this week we got Juha again showing us from the same point of last week, him invading the Soul Palace, and then him being stopped by Kirinji, and we get Kirinji Shikai. Then we get the return of Bambietta, and we get a possibility that Giselle might be a boy. Again, really grossed out about how Yumichika might have figured that out. That's just gross. Me, I have nothing against gay people, but that was just weird. Very weird. And it confirms that he's sweet. Or I'll just straight up say gay. We get Kirinji's Shikai, Kinpika. I really like that it's a bamboo ore. It kind of represents his whole hot spring deal. And the fact that he has something to do with water. What I would like to point out that from me watching anime, I've noticed in Japanese culture that they always talk about the River Styx, and that's the boatway to hell, or the boatway into the afterlife. Now, since he's a death god, that Shikai ability, or the fact that it's a bamboo ore, would totally make sense, and I thought that was pretty cool. Um, we have yet to know what his abilities actually are, but when he released his Zanpakuto, it emitted a light, and the fact that it was like just crazy. Another thing that I found amazing is that Hashwald could summon the foot soldiers, or as I like to call them, Cornball Quincy. He can actually summon them anywhere. So when they got to the Soul Palace, I really thought the big three was going to take on the Spirit King and the inhabitants of the Soul Palace. Just the three of them. But it was pretty cool that they have hundreds and hundreds of foot soldiers that they could summon at the drop of a hat. Now, the return of Bambietta. That right there brings a whole new dynamic to what could possibly happen. Now, what key part will Bambietta play? We all know that explodability was pretty sick, but will Giselle be able to fully wield Bambietta and fight Baldy and Sweetness at the same time? I don't know. seriously though, I can't wait to see what Kin Pika in English translation, Shining Gold. I can't wait to see what that ability actually is. A lot of times we get these Shikai names, and sometimes they're really, really elaborate, and they actually are totally opposite in a lot of cases. And really, though, there's one more thing that I've been thinking about. Though Kirinji sent out his blood water, or his blood spring water, it had no effect on Juha, Hashwalt, and Udio. Is it me, or am I bugging? I don't know. Definitely, I'd like to hear your thoughts on this week's chapter. For me, it was very enjoyable. Like, subscribe, comment, and as always, peace.